It's November 26, 2021, and here I am at a protest in the heart of downtown Toronto, calling for a federal ban on fur farms in Canada.
100 million animals are killed each year for fur globally. That's why we're here today. Can we please have a moment of silence and recognize these voiceless creatures?
The story of how I ended up here is inseparable from the making of this film. When I first came to Canada, it felt like paradise. I had actually never seen beauty like this. You imagine the forests are full of these wondrous creatures. But walking on the street, I found myself wondering how much cruelty is hidden behind all our fashion fur. How do I find out if the animals suffer while their fur is turned into clothes? I need to uncover these secrets. Because if you've ever truly loved an animal, you owe it to these creatures to ask yourself, where is your fashion coming from? I lived a pretty good life in Pakistan.
Clements, welcome to the morning show.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, this is Temu Chaudhary, creative director of The Mass.
If you actually have diamonds, people treat you differently. My life consisted of fashion shows, hanging out with models, having parties. I was also a pilot. When you're asleep and oblivious to everything else in the world, and when you're living a fast life, I should have been like the happiest person. But something was wrong. Something was missing in my life. Everybody say hello. Yeah. I remember going to the Himalayas with my dogs and all my friends. I was always a nice person, but I wasn't a very spiritual person back then. And I remember praying in this really old mosque. And I prayed that, hey, there should be something more in life. And I got what I prayed for. Things started changing. I started becoming more earth conscious. I was starting to understand the cruelty around me and starting to grow compassion towards what everything was. My family is Pakistani, but I was born in Dubai. We moved to Pakistan when I was 25. And seeing the way animals were treated on the street was a shock. I've always loved animals. I got my first dog when I was studying economics at McGill. I named him Foofy. He showed me that, like people, animals have thoughts and feelings too. I decided to take my camera into the biggest livestock market in the country. An incredible number of animals are brought here each week. Trucks in Pakistan aren't properly designed for loading animals. And when they want buffaloes or cows to climb up into the trucks, they beat them. I remember this one buffalo. They just kept hitting him. After 15 minutes, he broke. My heart sank. When I looked into his eyes, they reminded me of my dog Fufi. The man who beat the buffalo told me they don't have feelings like humans do. I wished I could show him otherwise. I was thinking, the only way to do this is through cinema. And if I learned how to make a documentary, I could get the word out to a lot of people and try to change their opinion. My family was relying on me to help run our jewelry business. But I couldn't get it out of my mind that somehow I needed to help these animals. And I said, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna do this. And I left for Vancouver to join a documentary film program. As a class project, I wanted to expand my film on animal cruelty in Pakistan. But my instructor Jack said, why don't you focus on something over here? Don't think Canada is cruelty-free. I thought, what kind of cruelty would happen over here? Do you feel like Canadians are very humane and the animals are protected and animals have rights over here? I just thought that any kind of cruelty was unbelievable. Making an animal cruelty documentary, what could I focus on? It was getting cold and I was noticing that there's a lot of jackets with these fur trims. And funnily enough, I was wearing one of those jackets. And I said, well, let's find out what this jacket is all about and where it comes from. I head over to the Fur Bearers, an animal protection society in Vancouver. The first thing I discover is that these fur trims are coming from coyotes or other wild animals.
There's a certain wildness that's associated with Canada, that people come here expecting wildlife, wanting wildlife. Mm-hmm. And I think people would be really surprised to know how wildlife are treated. Most people don't give much thought to the fur trim on their jacket, but it's wildlife. Real fur can be found on hoods, on coats, trim, collars, cuffs, keychains. Just frivolous luxury products that nobody needs. And fur is sourced from fur-bearing animals. These animals include wolves, beavers, muskrat, lynx. Coyotes is a species most often targeted, and we find coyote fur in all kinds of different products, namely the trim on hoods on parkas. And the only way to obtain coyote fur is in the wild, and that's through the use of traps. Or animals can be raised on fur farms. A fur farm is an industrial operation where animals are bred in captivity, they're raised in small wire cages. Fox, mink, and chinchilla live their lives in intense confinement, and the conditions are very similar to industries like puppy mills. Mink are a semi-aquatic species. They're built to swim, and you can see that with their little webbed feet. In the wild, mink spend the majority of their time diving, searching for food. Unfortunately, they're targeted by the fur industry. They're skinned for their pelts, and the bodies are simply discarded. Most animals on fur farms will be killed before their first birthday. Animals, including mink, will be gassed to death. Animals like chinchilla will have their necks broken. They can be electrocuted. And foxes, under the codes of practice in Canada, are electrocuted for their fur. And that's not an exaggeration. That's built into the national animal farm codes.
I'm shocked to hear about the cruel trapping practices that legally take place, and that fur farms still exist here. Each year, over 3 million Canadian animals are killed for fur, and the number is 100 million worldwide. I get word of an abandoned fur farm just south of Vancouver and go to investigate. Just looking at how small these cages actually are. I heard them described like 2x2s are small, but when you kind of look at this cage, so that's where these minks would have lived in. It's just enough for both my hands to fit in, really. I mean, I just can't imagine even putting my dog in this for 5 minutes. What design was this person thinking? How do you put your face in and try to get food out without injuring your head and stabbing yourself in the head? I pity the farm workers who actually work over here. I mean, how desperate would you be to actually do this for a living and do this every day?
I worked in the fur farming industry for nearly 4 years, and I've seen a lot of things. I've had to kill a lot of mink. I participated in over 1,000. Thousands not even close to the amount. We're talking tens of thousands. We have our ferrets, and that's a big part of our lives. Upgrade this box fortress.
Dan Starr, a former mink farm worker from Surrey, BC, contacted the fur bearers, saying he wanted to go public with his story.
I've always been fond of animals. Decent upbringing. I was taught right from wrong. I feel it's my responsibility to talk about the fur farming industry, mink farming in general. There is no proper way to put these animals down for their coats. Some of these times you're pulling them out, they're not dead, you have to break their neck. Some of them may even be damaged, and they are damaged because they mutilate each other. Animals, they can't speak, but they can scream when they're being murdered. It was hard for me to get out of the industry. I even left a few times, but I always came back. I have high-functioning autism personally, and I find it difficult to fit in. I'm not trying to put people down and all, but mink farmers will purposely hire people with addiction problems so they can't speak. And if they do, they will not be listened. No one will listen to them.
I really feel the pain Dan is going through. I can't imagine living with the memory of having to kill all those animals.
When I was in the process of leaving, I asked if I could purchase a mink Gandalf. He was special. He made me feel human when I was at the mink farm. My uncle agreed. He said, sure, you worked very hard. You can pick him up in a month. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Gandalf. It was probably skin, and his pelt was probably worth less than $15 US. I know some people might feel that it's insignificant. Maybe it's just one animal, but it's been very devastating having to relive, not just Gandalf, the thousands of other mink I've had to participate in killing.
After talking to Dan Starr, he basically wanted to appeal to the law and figure out how to stop these farms. Dan actually told me that he tried to contact a lot of MPs and no one took any action to be able to hear him out. They would answer his emails, but they would be like, there's nothing we can really do. The cruelty Dan describes is happening on fur farms right in our backyard, in British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, the Maritimes. And wild animals like coyotes are still being caught by leg hold trap or snare, enduring their final moments in agony. I thought to myself that it has to be a law against this. Maybe I should get in touch with the legal department and to an MP or somebody who could explain to me how this cruelty is actually allowed. I find out about a lawyer who's fighting an animal rights case in Vancouver, and I go to meet her.
I'm Camille Labchuk, the Executive Director of Animal Justice, and I'm also a lawyer. We're the only animal law organization in Canada, and we're here today outside the BC Court of Appeal. My first memory of really being concerned about animals and cruelty towards them is seeing images of the commercial seal hunt on television when I was 9 or 10 years old. I remember thinking, why do they let people do that to animals? I started getting interested in activism when I was finishing university. And I also started working for Green Party leader Elizabeth May. Every single day, we would go to Parliament Hill and study new legislation. I started to see how law could be used as a tool for activism and not just as a tool for corporations to make more money.
Okay, so I have to confess, I have a dirty secret in my closet. Could you have a look at it?
Sure. Oh, so it's a Macaj brand jacket, and this looks to me like it's raccoon dog fur, which they're known for using. Let's check the label here. Yeah, that's right. Real natural fur, Asiatic raccoon. So an Asiatic raccoon is also known as a raccoon dog. But companies know that the public does not want to wear dog fur, and so they call it Asiatic raccoon to try to get around the idea that they're actually killing canines.
You mean to tell me I'm wearing a dog this whole time?
It's a species of a canine, same family as dogs. It's the dirty little secret of the fur industry. Canada's labeling laws are unclear when it comes to fur. If there's a material that makes up less than 5% of the overall article, it doesn't have to be labeled. Companies know that consumers care deeply about animals and their treatment. And that's why it's so tempting for them to use words like humane, and Canada Goose is the perfect example of that.
A trapper doesn't see himself as a stranger in the wilderness. A trapper sees himself as part of being inside that cycle. Today, there are no secrets in trapping. Everyone shares the methods for the best efficiency, the most humane, and the safest ways to trap animals.
The trapping practice is used to kill coyotes, which are then skinned and used for fur trim on Canada Goose jackets. Those practices are incredibly cruel. Canada Goose on its website uses words like humane and ethical, but nowhere on their FAQ page about their jackets do they show any images of how coyotes are actually killed. Consumers, if they knew the truth about these practices, would never say that's a humane way to kill animals, not in a million years. And we say it's unfair and illegal to mislead consumers in that way. So what Animal Justice did was we filed a false advertising complaint against Canada Goose.
The makers of a well-known Canadian parka are caught up in controversy.
On cold days, they're ubiquitous. Canada Goose coats with their distinctive label and coyote fur trim.
It's really warm. I really like it a lot.
But animal rights groups don't like it at all.
It quickly became not just a national story, but an international story. And things have really taken off from there. There are protests outside its flagship store in Toronto and outside all kinds of stores that sell its products. We did force the Competition Bureau to investigate, but unfortunately, after almost a year of investigation, they came back at us with just a short 1.5-page letter that says they're discontinuing the investigation and they don't think enforcement action is warranted. Canada Goose has an incredibly cozy relationship with the federal government. The Prime Minister has spoken at their staff retreats, and I think that's troubling. Eventually, we'll get to the bottom of this and find out why our regulators are refusing to hold Canada Goose to account.
Camille is very intelligent in the way she pursues her battles with the corporations. This industry is way bigger than I had imagined. Their grip goes in so deep. I thought to myself, there's lots of people doing this work over here. The lawyers are doing it. You're just too small. What is one person going to make a difference? How are you going to make that change? I had to go back to Vancouver to finish the student film. I was so caught up filming animal rights activists, I was blowing all my assignments. I managed to submit my finished film on the last day of class, and I passed. But then, my personal life hit a speed bump. After graduating, my family thought I'd come back to Pakistan to help with our business. Now, they've run out of patience. My mom had enough of me being at this film school escapade, and she wanted to get me back home. So they decided to cut off my share of the business. It was a company that I built with them. And so it really upset me that they can just take it away. I need to do some soul searching to figure out what to do.
I believe that you can help yourself, and I'd like to be the person who can stand behind you, like a wind pushing you forward.
I hear about Tina James, a yogi who also has a black belt and climbs mountains.
Turn around all the negatives that everybody's told you. Create a whole different reality. You can do it. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu.
As you go along on your path, looking after creatures great and small, I want to present this to you to help you on your journey. It'll take you places that'll amaze you.
And I realized I had this power inside me to face this big fur industry and expose the secrets that they were hiding from the public. About a month later, hello? I get a call.
Oh, hi, is this Tamar?
Yes, speaking? It's someone from PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. They heard about my film project and want my help with an investigation into Canada Goose. I would need to go undercover and wear a hidden camera. They said that there was this fur auction house that nobody was able to get into because of the high security protocols. They asked me, because of my fashion background, to see if I could be able to penetrate their security. NAFA, the North American Fur Auction, is the successor to the Hudson's Bay Company's fur business. It was established in 1670 through a vast network of trappers. Now, NAFA is a hotbed for protests by animal rights groups, and insecurity is high. I was a new immigrant at the time, so I was very worried if I got arrested, I wouldn't be able to get my citizenship. But I think maybe this is my chance to make a difference in the lives of these animals. So I agree. They set me up with a secret camera and coach me on how to get the footage.
Okay, I am recording right now. Yes. Okay.
I arranged for a friend to join me as a part of my cover.
All right. 1, 2, bravery. Okay, I'm just gonna have a sip. NAFA is awesome, eh? It's about.
Canada Goose gets most of their fur from auction houses, and NAFA is one of their biggest suppliers.
Hey, how are you? Good. So we're here for the auction.
I need to find out if the pelts are coming from Canada.
Oh man, it smells so good.
Because PETA wants to trace their source to determine if the coyotes really are humanely trapped.
Yes, how are you?
I got a meeting with one of the highest officials and he said he would show us around.
Oh, is that a polar bear?
Like lynx cat?
Are they on the endangered list?
Yes, there's several different lists.
It's endless.
There were just rows and rows of these magnificent creatures hanging around like t-shirts. It was beyond my wildest imagination.
I didn't realize wolves were so big.
Okay, so ranch mix. Right?
So ranch mix means it's been raised on a ranch.
Market, farm-raised ranch mix.
So can we trace out that if these are Canadian, because we need to write on our thing that made in Canada.
Just tell you what the origin is, but I can't guarantee you that anything you bought is specifically Canadian. So that has to be generally by you to rest them.
Okay.
Say with this gentleman, the origin changes because the HS code changes. Whatever origin they were as a raw product, he's changed the product from a raw product to a dressed product. On the customs form, he can now declare them as product of Canada.
Find the coyote.
These are all wild animals, right? So this is how they grow their hair like this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really unique and really special.
So you get to the auction and then we can just send it to you.
That's right.
You guys finish it off and it's good to go.
Yeah, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Basically, the pelts could be from anywhere in the world, and there's no way of tracing whether they are coming from Canada or humanely trapped. Changing the harmonized system, the HS code, is a loophole that gives the fur industry a cover to mislead the public.
Let's get out of here. I feel like they're gonna bust my ass. Let's see if I got it.
I get the footage to PETA. Mission complete. There were so many beautiful animals in there. Seeing all the mink reminded me of my experience at that abandoned fur farm. So I asked the president where the mink came from, and he said they came from a mink ranch. I'm thinking of cowboys and a beautiful ranch, and he even showed me the cages. These were these really nicely painted cages. Is this what they portray to all the buyers? The beautiful fur farm ranch that these minks are kept in wonderful cages and have this nice life before they're killed?
Empty the cages!
It makes me sick and disgusted that I have to come out here and ask people to come out here not to torture animals on a bloody farm.
What do we want? Animal liberation!
I heard about Malcolm, this Cape Crusader who was like the Batman for animals.
All right, Greg, we have a message for you from Toronto. Be a role model for animals. Stop killing them and wearing them on jackets because people are going to throw your albums in the trash.
jumped into fur farms and took footage and made it public. What made him do this for the animals?
You can't stop injustice until you shine a light into the darkness. Like, people just don't know what is happening on these fur farms. There is a fur farm outside the city where I used to live. I wanted to learn more, so we actually went to this farm. I didn't realize how, like, just unfair and unjust, and what cruelty, like, is happening to these animals. I would say the majority of them are industrial factory farms, tens of thousands of animals. They have usually a fence around the outside. So they have security cameras with night vision, motion sensors, tripwires that will set off an alarm directly to the police. Some of these fences are electrified. This isn't to keep animals out. This is to keep people from going in there and showing what's going on to the public. I got an idea from a documentary I watched called Inside Fur. They would actually go inside the farms and film the conditions and bring this footage to different politicians. These images were so powerful that it led the politicians in that country to ban fur farming for good. So this gave me a lot of hope that I could actually do this similar thing in Canada. I actually took a newspaper on the advice of one politician. You can see the minks suffering right next to today's date in the paper. And I saw minks like in these cages, row on row. They spend their entire lives in like a cage just about the size of 2 sheets of paper. They have stereotypical behavior, so you see them chewing on the bars, breaking their teeth, pacing back and forth, rubbing their fur and body on the bars until they get wounds. The thing that sticks with me the most from doing these investigations is the smell. Just piles of manure on the cages, on the ground. They're never gonna touch the grass. They're never gonna feel sun on their face. They're never gonna eat normal food. It's saddening, very, very disheartening. I went to 5 fur farms so I could show it's not just one bad apple farm. This is a systemic problem within the industry.
Malcolm even found a hidden puppy mill at one of these farms.
It's a huge risk to myself, but I'm willing to take that risk because I care about animals, and I think this is so wrong. So I brought the footage to the police, and I thought they would do something to help the animals. But instead, I find myself being charged with break and enter. These farmers will say, I'm going onto the farm at night, shining a bright light in the eyes of the animal, and that's causing them distress, and that's somehow animal abuse, while they're lying, in piles of their own excrement, and there's dead animals there. But somehow my lights from my camera are the problem.
Malcolm is facing up to 10 years in prison. And so far, his court case has cost him over $60,000.
These criminal charges, they are designed not only to try and put me in jail, but if that doesn't work, they want to financially destroy me, basically.
When I first saw that footage from Malcolm, I was in disbelief that how something like this can happen in Canada. But then I heard about the Milbank's investigation and this mink called Franklin. What made you go after Milbanks in particular? Can you describe the investigation?
We targeted it because they did come out with this film making them look like they were the perfect ones.
I'm a mink farmer in Ontario. One of the more common questions were asked by people when they are not used to a mink ranch was, how do we kill the mink? We use carbon monoxide gas. It's an odorless gas, so it's stress-free, it's quick.
I think compared to other farmed animals, mink have it pretty much the best.
And I said, if you could disgrace the perfect ones, you could imagine how bad all the others are.
To document animal cruelty, but avoid break-and-enter charges, Last Chance for Animals' undercover agent gets hired as a farm worker.
They were a huge farm. They got 40,000 mink at any time. What they saw going on inside of there is abominable. And the conditions of the animals was horrendous. And the LCA undercover op heard the sounds of cries, and there was this one little guy in there that was suffering horribly. And this undercover op named him Franklin. Its skin, the scalp was down to the skull, and the left ear was missing. For a month, this animal suffered, and the undercover op kept reporting it and saying, you know, this animal needs to be euthanized.
This is that one that's been hanging on for weeks and weeks. Yeah, just really doesn't like killing them, likes to live time. Oh, I see. So just hang on until they can help it. Yeah. I know, it seems sucky, but what part of this doesn't suck?
The owner doesn't like to euthanize them. He likes to let them die on their own. In other words, suffer to death. At the end of a month of pleading, they had this person walk the mink down to be euthanized. And while it was being carried to the euthanasia area, Franklin died in the investigator's arms. They took this investigation and they turned it over to the Ontario SPCA.
The Ontario Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals charged Milbank with 14 counts of animal cruelty. They were convicted on only one count, but were fined and spent over $100,000 making improvements at the facility.
It cost them $186,000. And we need to hit them in the pocketbook, and we need to hit them politically to get the laws changed.
I take my hat off to the person who went in there and shot that footage. I respect all these investigators so much, and they have to walk away afterwards. They can't do something for the animals, because if they're caught, then no one will see the footage.
Yeah, I feel that because they had to use me to get into one of the fur auction houses, NAFA, because I had a jewelry background.
Ah, yes. You did a wonderful job, and I watched that footage.
It's such a joy to meet you, Ingrid.
Ingrid has been trying to expose the cruelty behind fur for decades and organizes some of the biggest anti-fur campaigns.
We started with 2 people in a basement, and we've now grown to 3 to 5 million people. Sentient simply means feeling. And all animals, of course, and we're just one, have emotions.
What are you doing?
We feel pain, we feel fear, we feel loneliness, we feel joy. So sentience is being alive, being aware, and feeling. And that's what we share with the entire animal kingdom.
When I first started my documentary work back in Pakistan,
I discover Ingrid and I share a common experience. Both of us had our aha moment seeing animal abuse in South Asia.
I went to India when I was 7, and I lived there till I was 16. My mother volunteered full-time for various things. Mother Teresa's orphanage. She always said, it doesn't matter who suffers, but that they suffer and that you can help them. So when I was about 7 or 8, I was sitting at my table, and there was a bullock cart coming down the road. And the bullock was dragging, and the man on top of the cart picked up the bullock's tail and took a stick and rammed it up inside him. And the bullock jolted, and the man took that stick and just beat this bullock. I took that stick, and I think I would have hurt that man. To this day, I never knew what happened to that bull, and that will haunt me forever. I used to say, one day I'm going to come back to India and I'm going to start a group to help these animals. Because I honestly didn't know, because it's all hidden here, that massive suffering is going on. Factory farms, who visits them? But I didn't need to go. We could do things here. We've had to stir it up, crawling in front of fur stores, picketing them and lying down and not moving unless the police came and hauled us away.
It's cool to wear cruelty-free fashion.
And all these famous people were sending the message to the furriers, to the design houses, that we don't want fur. We do have a current campaign against Canada Goose. We have all sorts of ads up saying, I'm someone, not something, and showing a picture of a beautiful coyote, a beautiful goose. It's absolutely scurrilous that you have companies now who know that there are kind consumers, and so they dupe them. This is like greenwashing, this is humane washing. And you see it with clothing, where they talk about sustainability. Cruelty isn't something you wish to sustain. So everything you do, remember the power of your purse. The corporations are watching, and they want to know how you spend your money. And if you spend it for good, that's what they'll sell you.
PETA's campaign gets the attention of Canada Goose when they place an ad near the house of the company's CEO, Danny Reese. He lodges a complaint, and things end up in court.
I'm going to show you the ad that was at issue. This is an advertisement put up by PETA, and it's an ad that's designed to expose the realities of what coyotes endure being trapped and killed to become fur trim on Canada Goose jackets.
There was exactly one complaint to these ads, and that was the complaint made by Canada Goose's advertiser to Astral. That was the only complaint made. And that raises another important issue, which involves the stifling of speech.
For animal advocates to be able to get out their message on public spaces is absolutely essential. We are not going to stand by idly when companies infringe on people's charter rights and attempt to stifle those who would speak up on behalf of animals. It's not going to end there. We are going to be there in the courts and holding them to account.
The court refused to overrule the decision to remove the ad. Big Canadian Fur wins again.
Well, I'm frankly quite surprised Canada wasn't ahead of us. Because I think of Canada as being so socially and morally responsible and environmentally responsible. I mean, admittedly, it's further north. There's a huge fur trade industry in Canada. But if we let that derail us or distract us, then we'll never get to the right place.
Ingrid Newkirk connected me with a fashion legend who's achieved some huge wins in the fight against fur.
And the Emmy goes to Tim Gunn for Project
congrats for being on the air for 10 seasons. Yes. Thank you, everyone.
He headed up the design department at Parsons School in New York and later became Chief Creative Officer for Liz Claiborne.
When I was at Parsons, should I go into the Parsons story?
Sure, yeah.
I took over the Department of Fashion Design in August of 2000. I have a responsibility to my students first. So if they're going to be working with fur, they need to know what the whole manufacturing process is like so that they can make informed decisions.
Tim's views on fur changed after an invitation by a well-known Scandinavian auction house.
Saga invited me to go to Denmark to see a fur farm. So I visited, and what an education. Saga Furs of Scandinavia was giving pelts to the students. I'd never been to a fur farm, and Saga raises mink and fox. And I was so disarmed by how tiny a mink is. And I thought, how many of these things go into making a coat? But the fox experience just did me in. In fact, I went back to my hotel, and I'll be honest, I wept. So I brought in PETA, and the fashion industry went crazy, saying, I can't believe you're bringing PETA in. How could you do this? And I said, because I want the students to see the other end of the spectrum. The students were profoundly repositioned in terms of their thinking. Eventually, fur just evaporated from the fashion design department, and I could not possibly have been happier. I always draw a line between fashion and clothing. We need clothes, but we don't need fashion. And fur just looks old, dated. Don't you feel that presenting yourself to the world this way is vulgar? It is, it's vulgar. Instead of looking glamorous, you look like a vulgar atrocity.
Honorable council members, the fashion business has a troubling history with animals.
Is it possible, do you believe, to farm animals for their fur in a humane manner?
When New York City considers a bill to ban fur sales, Tim uses his industry experience to leverage support.
Anyone who wants a fur-like garment can go to faux sources. I really profoundly believe that it's an entirely unnecessary waste of lives.
You've got to ask the potent moral and ethical questions on this topic. What's the right thing to do? And getting rid of fur is simply the right thing to do, and I'm just surprised Canada hasn't done it already.
It's fantastic that so many famous designers, once fully committed to fashion fur, are now fur-free.
What do you hold close out there?
But many of Canada's top designers are still hanging on to fur, using slick ads, playing to Canadian heritage and Indigenous culture, or just straight up selling luxury.
Canada was built on the fur trade. It was our first economy, and we see that in the history books. There's this sense of Canadiana or romanticism about the fur trade. And I think there's a misconception that the fashion fur trade is somehow connected to Indigenous peoples. And while there is a relationship there, many don't identify with the commercialization and the mass killing of animals for luxury products. And so taking down the fur industry really requires us to reconsider our history and our relationship with Indigenous people and the fur trade and colonization for that matter.
When it comes to trapping,
There just aren't enough animals around. The carrying capacity of the land has been reduced due to too much pressure. There's a big difference between subsistence hunting and then trying to maximize your profit by going to an industrial scale. My English name is David Fierro. My traditional name is Hahas Manucht. When I put an animal on the ground, there's a ceremony portion to it because I'm thanking the animal for its life. For most First Nations, they'll offer tobacco and they'll be saying prayers as that animal's leaving the body, telling that it's okay, that you're going to respect it, you're going to take care of it. I don't hunt for fun, I hunt for food and make sure that there's no waste. The hide goes into drums, the antlers, the hooves will all be used for ceremonial pieces. If you're trapping and doing it in order to keep the culture alive, that's one thing. Or if you're someone that lives very, very simply and very, very plainly off-grid, you might get enough to buy your groceries, but that's about it. From a First Nations perspective, culturally speaking, taking more than the environment can handle is robbing the future.
I hear about Chief Stuart Phillip, who's issued a press release condemning fur farming. He's also a well-known environmentalist. Grand Chief Phillip was gracious enough to grant us an audience with him. We got here a couple of things from our culture.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's that
nice,
meditative bowl.
And we found some raw natural tobacco.
Wow.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, we're always using tobacco for offerings. Oh my gosh.
And this is a book. I'm a Muslim by birth, and so this is one of our saints, and he talks about spiritualism of our culture.
And Joan will read that tonight.
Yeah.
Grand Chief Stuart Phillip and his wife Joan have been on the front line of protests across North America their whole adult lives. Twice, Joan has run to become a member of the Canadian Parliament.
My ancestral name is Ancient, and I'm originally from Tsleil-Waututh, which was Broward Band.
My indigenous traditional name is Asiu, and it translates into loon. We believe very strongly that our responsibilities to the land and to the water are sacred, and they're a very integral part of our teachings that flow from our culture and our language. These responsibilities are something that needs to be an active part of your life. It was Joan that made me aware of the international history of colonization and the traumatic effect it's had on indigenous populations throughout the world. Joan and I have dedicated our life to defend the land, defend our people, and defend our way of life. Euro-Canadian values are very much attached to the pursuit of raising capital through exploiting the natural resources, oil and gas development, mining, industrialized fishing. Whereas Indigenous culture reflects our spiritual connection to the land and all living things.
We use mink for clothing, but the commercialization to sell for profit is just so many ways from wrong.
There's a vast difference between the industrialized propagation of mink and indigenous people practicing our rights to trap mink. So for any corporation to suggest that somehow there's indigenous support, there's traditional support for these industries is absolute BS. Shame on the provincial government, shame on the Canadian government for promoting these toxic industries.
The COVID pandemic exposes just how toxic fur farming is. It's quickly become a serious problem globally and here at home.
After that huge cull of millions of mink on farms in Denmark, there were fears COVID-19 might appear in mink farms around the world. Well, now it's beginning to happen. An outbreak among workers has been declared on a mink farm in British Columbia's Fraser Valley.
We know mink can get COVID. We can pass COVID back and forth between mink and humans. In British Columbia, there's been 3 farms that we know of where COVID has been detected. These fur farms creates a capacity for this virus to mutate. In response, in some parts of the world, there were mass culls where millions of mink were killed. All this effort and progress is being made to fight COVID, and yet no one is doing anything about these fur farms.
Even before COVID, fur farming in Canada was an industry in distress. With prices for pelts at an all-time low from 2014 to 2020, the feds and provinces handed out upwards of $100 million in subsidies. The bottom line is, it's all public money being squandered on a sunset industry.
The industry and the government know that people are shifting their attitudes. They know that people are moving away from fur. And instead of adopting the new reality and embracing it, they're trying to fight and keep things the way they used to be by hiding information from people.
In a few minutes, we're going to be voting on Bill 156.
In Ontario, a bill is introduced under the guise of animal protection that makes it easier to prosecute anyone exposing cruelty on factory farms.
Mr. Speaker, when someone trespasses on a farm, they are unlikely to be aware of the sensitive biosecurity protocol in place. We trust our farmers to maintain some of the safest food standards in the world.
Bill 156 is an extremely draconian piece of legislation. It's a law to hide the cruelty that happens behind the closed doors of fur farms. So it makes it an offense for a whistleblower to get a job on a fur farm for the purpose of seeing if there's animal cruelty. And it could also target those who are already working on a farm and see something that they find unconscionably cruel and feel like they have to report.
The bill passes into law. Now, unless investigators like Malcolm are willing to risk hefty fines and even jail time, the suffering of animals inside Ontario fur farms will remain hidden. I get a call from back home. It's Mom.
Hello. How are you feeling?
I'm not feeling well. I'm asking from my God, save my husband. He's suffering for COVID. And you are very far, and they are also very
Most of my family has come down with COVID. My father's in critical condition at a hospital in Dubai.
Tell me what I can do to help so I can do it. I can do whatever it is that you want me to do. What do you think I can do? I'll do it. I would love to.
What should I say, at this time?
Mom knows I'm deep into this film, so she isn't making demands.
You should pray for your father, okay?
It's an agonizing decision. But we agree I'll remain in Canada and continue filming.
I'm very tired, okay?
Okay, thanks, Mom. Love you. I'll pray and thank you for talking to me.
I forced myself to get back to work. We're at a critical point in the battle against fur farms. With COVID outbreaks, ongoing government subsidies, and agriculture gag laws, I want to know what I can do as a filmmaker politically.
Hey, Ola, how are you?
Great.
I reached out to Ola Wagen, director of the Norwegian documentary Inside Fur, that gave Malcolm the idea to film fur farms undercover.
Ola, no one's done what you've done. How you influence through your film to get the law changed, literally, in Scandinavia.
Yeah, it started many years ago when a group of activists was sort of tired with doing the demonstrations and all the typical things and didn't feel it got anywhere with it. Didn't feel it was raised on a higher level, on political level. So that's where my project came in. Then it became a really, really big news story in Norway.
Because you generated so much public interest, the politicians then used it.
When something becomes a big media story, politicians have to pay attention. Maybe just because they see that it's a way to get more votes. If you ask anybody in Norway, they have an opinion about fur farming. And they know something about it because it's been so much in the media.
Wow. Honestly, like, to get all of this is like an impossible thing that you achieved.
It's definitely not just me. I made a film and that's a small part. You have people going undercover. You have a bunch of people doing investigations. You have people working, lobbying with politicians and giving them the fact. If it's going to happen in Canada, you will see that it's going to be many different people involved to get it through.
Thanks for setting the bar for us.
It's been done before, so you can do it, I'm sure.
Citizen, I think of the beauty and freedom I associate with Canada. I think of equality, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to be and express who you are. Thank you very much, Tamor, for sharing your beautiful words.
Today, I'm officially a Canadian citizen. And my wish is that all sentient beings here are treated equally.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I put forward Bill C-246, the Modernizing Animal Protections Act, to improve our country's animal welfare laws.
Camille told me about an elected politician who a couple of years ago tried to pass an animal welfare bill in Parliament.
Bill C-246 was a private member's bill introduced by a Liberal MP, Nathaniel Erskine Smith. He modeled it after previous legislation that the Liberal government in the 1990s and early 2000s had introduced. And they recognized at that time that these laws needed to change, that they weren't good enough. You've got the UK, New Zealand, the United States. Most other developed nations have national animal welfare legislation that protects animals and sets out standards. In Canada, it's extremely piecemeal. There's criminal laws at the federal level, and then each province is left to figure out animal protection laws by itself.
It simply brings old provisions designed to protect animals into the 21st century. Enough is enough.
Unfortunately, the farming industry, the fishing industry, the hunting industry, they did everything that they could to block this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
His bill didn't pass, but it did lead Ottawa to implement other animal protection laws. Animal protection remains one of his key concerns. I want to meet him and ask if he'd be willing to take a stand against fur farming.
How's it going?
Good to see you. Thanks for coming. There's a group of people, because of my animal advocacy, that every year have sent us a calendar with an artist sketch because we've been so vocal that there are those across the country, not even in Beaches, East York, that have recognized those efforts. It's kind of nice. My experience to date has been my animal welfare legislation didn't even get past second reading.
Do you think a fur ban is possible in Canada?
When you ask, is it possible to ban fur, trapping is clearly cruel. But if the ban is going to touch individual trappers who make their living, yes, but in a fairly modest way, I think it's going to be a real challenge.
I started focusing on fur farms because that's something that everybody gets behind it. We're not going over any indigenous rights. It's all the diseases are coming from there.
Yeah.
So if we were to push for that, especially at this time, during this pandemic, is the time when everybody can just put a crashing stop to this already dead industry.
If it's about fur farming that inflicts serious cruelty costs on animals, but that also poses great risks to human health. The UN has a report that says 75% of emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic diseases. Closer proximity to animals elevates risks.
That's what we need to now think about.
Yeah.
You think there is hope, like if we all get behind you and there's enough public interest?
Look, we need every Canadian to step up and use their voice and demand action from parliamentarians of all parties. I don't want to undersell the importance of raising one's voice now, because it's critical.
I head home very excited about Nathaniel's openness to a new bill. And will do whatever it takes to get the public support he needs. Making this film, I'm meeting so many amazing people who are inspiring me to get more active. Nathaniel's willingness to collaborate is the perfect opportunity. My idea is to organize a worldwide day of protest to ban fur farming in Canada. So these initial meetings, if we start recording them, then I can compile them later. My film production team morphs into a PR team. We design a website to help the public reach elected politicians with the click of a button. And we contact animal rights organizations across Canada and abroad for their support.
Right.
Well into our campaign,
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
I get a call from Nathaniel's assistant.
So this was sort of a disappointing conversation that I had with Nate earlier today.
A snap election looks likely, and a bill won't be possible until next year.
We don't know what's going to happen with the elections. He has a really high chance of being reelected. But the reality is we do not know that he's going to be reelected. I'm still processing it all, to be honest.
This feels like a big setback.
Rather than focusing on the negative, maybe we can come up with a strategy.
But I'm still committed to a day of protest.
Now, we have such a good politician there. He's about to do it, and then, of course, his hand gets tied because of the system. So maybe our strategy now is to go back to take a step back and get that initial support to force these politicians to have to do it. Okay, thank you. Air hug, everybody. It'll be better.
We need more help taking our day of protest international. So we widen our search. I find a website for a group called Animal Save.
We have seen that governments know how to respond to a crisis when they recognize that a situation is a crisis.
They are experienced in direct action campaigns to protect animals and have chapters around the world.
Nita, what's going on? They're hiding the dead pigs and the injured pigs and they're sending them to slaughter.
Their leader, Anita Krines, is world-renowned for staging protests and getting arrested.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this.
And they have the support of celebrities like Joaquin Phoenix.
Hey, Baby Liga. Hi. I brought you
a hoodie, a Toronto Cal Save hoodie. You want to put it on?
Yeah, this looks pretty cool.
Leo Tolstoy said there's a power of observation. When you personally experience another being, they are in your mind and they're something real. If you witness a victim, you're very responsible to help them. They become part of your life.
One of the hardest things to do is actually reach the global community on what's going on in Canada right now, because somehow Canada is behind all the other countries. Everybody who I speak to is usually like, what do you mean, there are fur farms in Canada?
We have like a global network of over 1,000 chapters, and we would love to join your campaign to ban fur farming. We're excited.
That's amazing. If we get global eyes on this, there's a media explosion, it'll give us enough momentum to get that bill in everybody's eyes. We really need all the help we can get. A revolution needs a song. I hear about a heavy metal vocalist, Alyssa Whitegloves.
When I was born, the seed was sown. I will not obey my life as my own.
She's a known animal rights activist with a powerful voice. I reach out, and to my surprise, she invites me to meet in Montreal. So this is some of your outfits. They look so cool.
I wore this for the music video of The Eagle Flies Alone.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. And this is not leather? Because I really thought like...
No, it's spandex, yeah. Wardrobe is something that I really love that allows me to express myself visually on stage. In heavy metal, there's this connection with leather. I've never worn animals. I will not ever wear animals. Canada is built on this weird, sort of outdated pride about our fur trade. I don't know why that isn't something we're ashamed of, rather than proud of. I know Canadian winters are cold. I've lived here my whole life, and I've never had to use that to stay warm. As a front woman, it's very important to transmit the lyrics with the right emotion behind them. I tap into what personally gets me in a screaming mood, and that is my passion for wanting to eliminate animal cruelty globally.
Alyssa's written a new song dedicated to suffering animals. Generously, she says I can use it in the film. This famous, amazing person, and she's singing this beautiful song for the animals, for us.
If silence could only speak, the words it whispers are haunting me. If human eyes would only see beyond ourselves.
I've written quite a few songs over the years that were rooted in animal rights. With this song, The Song to Save Us All, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to be a little bit more direct about it.
And this could be the song to save us all.
Music is the universal language. So I wanted to use that to get this message across and get people to understand that they can be part of this huge problem that maybe they weren't aware they were a part of, but they can also make a little switch and be part of the solution. Yeah. That one, yeah. Yep. Good call. That was the one-hit wonder button. So, yeah. It's working for me.
Freedom to make the right choice. Just listen, they need us to be their voice.
One thing that is a little bit troubling, as of tomorrow, there is a sneak preview of a new documentary that's called Real Fur.
We've been so successful getting the word out, We've even caught the attention of the Canadian Mink Breeders Association.
We've got some underground people that are going to be monitoring it, and hopefully we'll have a link to this new Real Fur documentary.
I came across this recording from one of their recent meetings.
It's hopefully not damning, but it may be.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice messaging system.
Hi, this is director and producer Taimur Chaudhary of Real Fur. I've been trying to get in touch with you guys for a long time over here. I just want to be able to see what your point of view is. I called them several times. I'd like to ask about the millions of dollars in subsidies they receive. I was wondering if someone would be interested in doing an interview and giving their opinion on mink farming. If you can call me back, that would be great. No one's getting back to me. Assalamualaikum, Mom. How are you?
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm scared and I'm still praying, and I'm very upset about what's been happening. You tell me.
God has answered our prayer, and now, mashallah, my family is, mashallah, recovered from COVID. And
finally, some good news from Pakistan. My dad, sister, and brother and his family have all recovered from COVID.
you are doing very good work, and you are doing for animals, and you are doing for God. We sacrifice, and you give us a good result of your work.
Mom, that means so much to me that you're behind my work and you understand how important this is. I love you. Thank you so much for your support, Mom.
Love you.
After months of feeling stressed out, Nathaniel is re-elected. And he has an update on the fur ban legislation.
Here's a draft of the proposed legislation, and I haven't tabled it yet in Parliament. I think it's obvious that whether you come at it from an animal welfare perspective or you come at it from a human health perspective, that there is no place for fur farming in our society. And I've gone through the UK legislation as an example, and there's a model for us to follow, and we should phase out fur farming once and for all.
For us, it was really exciting that an MP was willing to propose a bill that would end fur farming in Canada. And of course, the compensation scheme that could be offered to fur farmers to offer them a just transition.
It's actually shocking to see the number of countries that have already done it, and then to go, and Canada hasn't even proposed this at any time.
Honestly, for me to look at this bill, it's a pretty big moment for me because I was here last December. I was like, hey, what do you think about a ban on fur farms? And you said yes. And now here we are drafting this bill. So we're well on our way. When news gets out about the proposed bill, I just can't believe how much support starts rolling in for our campaign. We even get picked up by the media.
So excited to be here with Taimur Chaudhary. How can people get involved in this movement?
You scan this code, wherever you see it, you can go on the Instagram, you can go on our website. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for the next pandemic?
Yeah.
Why can't we just shut these things down?
It's definitely this whole symptom of humankind of not willing to do short-term pain for long-term gain.
Taimur, let's begin with you. I mean, clearly this is a passion project. Why did you want to do this documentary?
Well, Leslie, Dan is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this documentary.
I thought what I was doing was wrong, so I walked away.
These are going to be going all over the city. They look incredible this weekend.
So it's an honor to be with you folk. I'm a big fan of everybody's works and very happy to be here and be a part of this coalition.
It's New York's pleasure to be invited to collaborate with you, Mr. Chaudhary.
Consumers don't want this. This isn't around because people want it. It's hanging on with the support of the government. Glad to be part of this.
I'd like to see change, and I'd like to see things move forward. So the initiative here with the bill, we're incredibly excited about, and looking forward to this day of action where all of our groups can work together.
It takes a village to bring this industry down. We're watching it crumble, almost the same kind of way we saw whaling crumble. Thanks, everyone.
Animal Safe chapters participating in the global event. Birkenfeld, Cow Save in Germany, Napoli, Animal Save, which does incredibly creative events. We have the Netherlands and Finland. In Asia, we have Mumbai.
We're very happy to be participating in the Day of Action. We're mobilizing activists from our Animal Justice Academy. We're very excited about the potential for this bill to become legislation and the law of the land in Canada.
I'm energized. I'm so excited. This is going to be an enormous first step to getting this bill approved. Keep up the beautiful work. Remain in contact throughout the thing and get everything on video. The big day of protest is here.
Yeah, all right. Testing 1, 2.
In addition to all these amazing people who've helped organize this global event, I'm about to find out who in the world cares about banning fur farms in Canada.
All over the world, we have 4 continents participating in this protest.
We're not tired. We will keep coming back and disrupting your business. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Chris Theroux is the founder and president of Last Chance for Animals.
Schafe, Ziegen, Alpakas, Kaninchen und andere Tiere sind nicht dazu da.
The majority of Canadians support a federal ban on fur farming. If you support this, contact your local MP now.
I read this quote. It was by Mahatma Gandhi, and he said, "The greatness of a nation can be judged by how we act towards our animals." People look at Canadians and they see that we have these fur farms, and what would they think? And so that's why we organize this support and protest, to show the world that Canadians are against cruelty and Canadians condemn fur farms.
This is basically a global movement. They're going to be going to Canadian embassies.
It's inspiring to see so many countries joining the campaign to make fur farms history. We can't let this continue. Fur farms don't belong in Canada or anywhere. Fur is a relic of a cruel and uninformed age.
We are in front of the Canadian consulate. The Canadian government needs to take action and stop propping up this dead industry.
We're asking for a federal ban. There's an MP on our side.
We now need to show the government that we want to ban fur farms.
So thank you all for being here today, here in Toronto and across the world. Because together, today, we can make fur farms history. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Beaches, East York.
Mr. Speaker, commercial fur farming is cruel to the animals that face horrible conditions every day, and it poses a real risk to human health, including pandemic risk. Many countries have already put an end to this practice, and Canada should do the same. It's now time for Canada to end the cruel and dangerous practice of commercial fur farming, and that is exactly what this legislation will do.
If silence could only speak, the words it whispers are haunting me. If human eyes would only see beyond ourselves what others felt, we'd soon forget our hierarchy. And this could be the song to save us all. Can we see right from wrong to save them all, to save us all? We are just mouths to feed, all consuming. Our law is greed. How can so many play the fool? Eyes don't see, ears don't hear, hearts don't feel, so it isn't cruel. And this could be the song to save us all. Can we see right from wrong to save them all, to save us all? If silence could only